Hello, class of 2021. You have had a year for the history books as we have navigated a global pandemic that has caused so much upheaval and loss in our world. In this year of your graduation, we lost two members of the Ashesi team to COVID-19. Board member Patrick Nutor and Associate Dean of Student Life and Engagement, Frances Ewa Chermating. We also received news of losses of close family and friends of various members of our community. Let us observe a moment of silence in their memory. Class of 2021, let us also take a moment, with loud applause this time, to thank all those who have helped bring you to this day. Family and friends, university administrators, faculty and support staff, mentors, donors. As I was preparing to write this commencement speech, I wondered whether I should even mention the COVID-19 pandemic, let alone center my remarks on it. On the one hand, the pandemic has been a defining factor for your last year in college. But on the other hand, we are all weary of this situation and we cannot wait for it to be over. I wondered, who needs yet another speech about COVID? But in the end, given the dramatic role this pandemic has played, given the exceptional grit and perseverance you've demonstrated this past year, and given our collective commitment to learning all that we can in every circumstance, it seemed to me that I should accept this learning moment and speak about it on your commencement day. As Sir Winston Churchill once said, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." Perhaps there are some lessons here that may be useful in your professional and personal lives. Crises test the values of societies, organizations, and individuals. In addition to being learning moments, crises also tend to be values moments. This is the first point I want to make to you today, that as you continue your life's journey, it is in the moments of greatest difficulty that your values will be most tested. Pay attention to the decisions you make and the actions you take in those times, because your values may lead you to great answers or some not so great answers. The COVID crisis emerged at a time when many people were moving towards a stronger sense of nationalism, animosity towards globalization, and a mantra of me first or my country first. The world's values were changing. The world was fracturing. And the resulting lack of cooperation among nations cost us all dearly. The world's reaction this time did not match our collective response to the N1H1 avian flu scare in 2009 or the Ebola crisis in 2014. I think the big lesson here, my second point to you today, is how important empathy and cooperation are and will continue to be. We will need real cooperation to get the world vaccinated against this disease and to prevent such an occurrence from crippling the world again. These efforts will be critical to safeguarding the future of humanity. So as you go on with your lives, remember also the importance of empathy. A me-first approach to decision-making and life will not always make you first. Remember that CEOs need to care about everyone else: customers, employees, shareholders, and other stakeholders, not just themselves. Similarly, leaders of nations must care about issues that affect their citizens, both locally and internationally. My third and final point to you today is that I think it bears noting the heroism of many millions of people who have worked in their respective fields to keep the world moving forward even at this difficult time. I'll list a few. Major decisions made by governments to deliver critical government spending to prevent another Great Depression. Extraordinary work by scientists to develop treatments and vaccines for COVID-19. The tireless efforts of health workers to save lives. The steady, quiet work of engineers, technicians, delivery men and women, farmers, and many others to keep essential services running and to deliver food, medicines, and other supplies around the world. In a crisis, we notice them more, but they have always been here doing the work they do. I remember a time a few years ago when I suggested to a high-ranking professor I met that at Ashesi University, the work of a janitor or gardener was as important as the work of a professor. I remember the shock on her face. To her, my statement was heresy and would not be countenanced at other universities she had worked at. Listen, I understood her sentiment. The core functions of a university are teaching and research, and professors are the primary providers of those functions. But a lot of learning happens outside the classroom too, in an environment managed by university administrators, kept clean by janitors, made beautiful by gardeners, made safe by security personnel. As a leader, I have decided to care about everyone, see everyone, speak to everyone, respect everyone. It works for me, and I recommend this approach to you as you set forth in your careers. And by the way, this is not only about your colleagues at work. It is also about your family. I once heard the CEO of a very successful Silicon Valley company talk about the difficult first 3 years of his startup company, when he did not receive a salary and depended on his wife's salary. Investors did not understand his project, and he had a lot of difficulty getting funding. And because he was so busy at work, his wife also did most of the childcare at home. Later in a lunch conversation, people at my table remarked how terrific this guy was. What a heroic 3 years. My response, that man owes everything to his wife. As you go about your careers, class of 2021, be sure not to get so busy that you don't recognize the support of your wife, your husband, or your friends in getting you where you are. Be sure to recognize the invaluable efforts of those who work quietly with you, performing essential functions. We all learned these lessons this past year, and I thought I would share them with you on this your commencement day. Congratulations, class of 2021. We are all proud of you, and we're all hopeful for you. We look forward to working alongside you, supporting your missions in life, and helping you make a dent in this world. Godspeed.